April Fool's, Brick Fanatics! The 1st of April is fast approaching, and with it comes a bunch of new LEGO sets that are going to be released. This is not perhaps the biggest month in terms of new releases, but it's not necessarily about quantity, because some of these sets are absolutely really worth your attention. If you're a particularly big fan of Steamboat's Beauty and the Beast or The Lord of the Rings, you will definitely want to pay attention to this. There are at present 6 LEGO sets that are currently scheduled for release on the 1st of April, and there's one wild card in here that we're going to talk about as well. This is a special mystery set that doesn't have a set release date yet. In fact, we don't know an awful lot about it, but it is definitely on the horizon, something that may well be coming out very soon. Hopefully this video will help you to decide what to purchase if you plan on rushing to the LEGO store on the 1st of April, and whether or not it is worth you just holding on to some money in case something else turns up over the course of the month. Now, as said, April is a bit of a tricky month because it is not necessarily the biggest month for the LEGO group and for new releases. We are expecting that there will probably be more new releases in May, when we are going to be getting a bunch of collectible Formula 1 little cars, and of course we can expect an awful lot of Star Wars stuff to probably release in time for the 4th of May. But while April may not have a huge number of releases, we've got several really big hitters, and by big hitters I mean really big LEGO sets. Let's just run through the list of confirmed sets before we talk about that one wild card. The 6 LEGO sets currently scheduled for release on the 1st of April 2025 are as follows. 43263 Beauty and the Beast Castle, 40817 Yellow Travel Suitcase, 21356 River Steamboat, 76312 The Hulk Truck vs Thanos, 76315 Iron Man's Laboratory Hall of Armour. So then, a good month for the LEGO Disney diaspora, by which I mean not just the Beauty and the Beast Castle, but also those 2 Marvel sets, and that Steamboat, which is going to appeal particularly to certain fans of certain Disney brands. Disney doesn't actually own the concept of a steamboat, much as they absolutely would love to, but it is definitely something that is inextricably tied to certain key franchises for them. Before we talk about the Disney sets though, let's first talk about the wild card, 10354 The Shire. The Shire has not fully been officially unveiled yet. It has turned up on the LEGO website very briefly, but it is not a set that we know very many details about at this particular moment in time. The set does not have a confirmed price, the set does not have a confirmed release date. What we do know is that on the 5th of April, the Leicester Square LEGO store is going to be holding a meet and greet for the designer of the set. I don't want to overreach here and say anything that has not been absolutely certainly definitely said by the LEGO group already, so I'm going to read directly from the website where they announced the meet and greet. Quote, "Meet the designer. Meet Kenyon Andrew Brady, the creative mastermind behind the new LEGO icons The Lord of the Rings, The Shire, 10354, and have your new set signed at the flagship LEGO store in London's Leicester Square. Kenyon Andrew will be meeting fans on Saturday 5th of April from 10 AM to 12 PM. Put the date in your diary. Terms and conditions, maximum 3 sets per person. While stocks last, LEGO, the LEGO logo and the minifigures are trademarks of the LEGO Group. Copyright 2025, the LEGO Group." So by the 5th of April, the Leicester Square LEGO store expects to have stock of this LEGO set that fans can take to the designer, get him to sign the box, and then they can leave the store with those boxes. They can have 3 per person. That is by the 5th of April. That doesn't mean that the LEGO set releases on the 5th of April, it just means that by that date, these things will be on store shelves in the Leicester Square LEGO store. I will leave all other speculation on that matter to you, so go nuts, have some fun with that. Anyway, the Shire is the logical next step for LEGO Lord of the Rings as it exists at the moment, where we've been getting one of these sets annually, and they're generally fairly nice, fairly detailed, fairly display-oriented, and they've got a lot of pieces in there, and they're all quite expensive. And finally, we've got one that's maybe a little bit smaller than, say, Barad-dûr or Rivendell, but it's no slouch necessarily in the piece count still. It's still quite a large, beefy set. We've had LEGO Bag End in the past, but this is the first one that is really designed around display. It's got a bunch of stuff in here that we don't normally get. The focus here is on Bilbo Baggins' birthday party, which means that there's an awful lot of minifigures in here that we wouldn't normally have. A few little additional vignettes that go alongside Bag End in order to flesh this out and make it a full display, rather than just being a hole in the ground. A nice hole in the ground, don't get me wrong, but a hole in the ground. We will be covering this LEGO set in greater detail once we know a bit more about it than is written in just this announcement of the Meet the Designer event. But one thing that is certainly going to be a contentious issue with this LEGO set is the price. There is no official price for it right this second. We do not know how much it costs, but more so than perhaps any other thing, that is the question that is bouncing around the Brick Fanatics team at the moment. How much is this thing going to cost? The LEGO Lord of the Rings sets that we've had over the past few years have been, as said, quite big, quite beefy, quite expensive LEGO sets, and the Shire being a little bit smaller means it's going to be a little bit more accessible to a lot of people, provided the price point is not significantly higher than some people would like to pay. Certainly, the LEGO Group expects the need to limit people to only being able to purchase 3 of these on the 5th of April at the Leicester Square LEGO store. That doesn't necessarily bear any reflection on what the cost of the LEGO set is going to be. It's just fun to see the LEGO Group speculating there. Now, LEGO fans, don't you try filling up a wheelbarrow with these things. You can only have 3 of them. Save some for everybody else. But anyway, with the wild card out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the Beauty and the Beast castle. We've already done a video that has gone into great detail on the history of Beauty and the Beast's castle and how it was designed and how it reflects Chateau Chambord and how that was designed and the cool history behind that and the surprise twist ending. I'm not going to spoil it here. Definitely check out that video if you've not done so already. With a whopping 2,916 pieces, this is not a small LEGO castle. This is one of the bigger sets that is releasing in April. It has a price tag to match. For a lot of people, this is going to be one of the sets which is an either-or scenario for the 1st of April. Either this one, or perhaps the Steamboat, or perhaps the Shire. Quite aside from anything else, this thing is very tall, and so you're going to need to make sure that you have appropriate storage space for it. But if you're the kind of person who's already got 1 or 2 of the Disney castles that we've had in the past, this one is probably going to fit in quite well alongside them, even if it is maybe just a little bit smaller than, say, the Disney castle for Cinderella that is currently on store shelves as well. I don't necessarily count the slightly smaller size and piece count against this one. It does mean that it is going to be a little bit more accessible for people who either don't have the money for a much bigger castle or don't have the space to display a much bigger castle. Of course, throughout this video, we're talking about day 1 purchases for these sets, but a lot of people are going to also hang back for a while and say, that's a wonderful castle. I want like double VIP points at least before I pick this up. I want a cool gift with purchase before I pick this up. Or I just want to see it discounted a bit before I end up spending the money on it. So definitely bear in mind that this thing is probably not going to disappear from store shelves on the 1st of April and then never come back. You can hang on and buy this thing at a time that is more convenient for you and perhaps a little bit cheaper or a little bit more appealing because of additional perks and benefits. From the Beauty and the Beast castle, let's move on to talk about something a little bit smaller, but also in some ways a little bit bigger in scale, the travel suitcase. 40817 Yellow Travel Suitcase is a much smaller build. It only contains 184 pieces. It only costs $12.99 in the United Kingdom. What is significant about this is that it is kind of in scale with the big brick-built minifigures that we've been seeing from the LEGO Group in recent years. We've got the one that is meant to be the minifigure that hangs out at the front of the LEGO Group's headquarters. We've got that pirate one, which is brilliant. And we've got the new race car driver that is just released. So if your giant brick-built minifigure is going on holiday, why not buy him a little suitcase? It's nice to display alongside him. And I say him because all of these have been coded male thus far. We haven't had a female big old minifigure just yet, unless you count the Hermione one from a few years ago, which I don't because there's so much of a gap between that one and these new ones releasing. Does make me wonder what would be the ideal female minifigure for conversion into a big brick-built size. I'd quite like a wild start. I feel like we're too far away from the Lego movie being relevant for that to be appropriate, but it would be quite nice to have just something feminine in this larger collection as well. Anywho, let's talk about the River Steamboat. When this set was revealed, I made a comment saying that I didn't know how big the audience for this giant brick-built steamboat might be, because as cool as this set looks, and don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely phenomenal, I feel like because of its price point, because of the number of pieces in it, because of the size of this thing, it's probably going to appeal primarily to boat enthusiasts and people who already love this kind of design, and maybe not necessarily have the same widespread appeal as, say, Beauty and the Beast Castle, which has a much larger natural fan base. The comments on that video suggested that maybe I was underestimating the LEGO Steamboat fan community, because definitely there are some people for whom this is the big set of the year, the thing that they are the most excited for, and more power to you if that is you, because this is a really nice set and hopefully you're going to get quite a lot out of it. There were also comments from people saying that River Steamboat is a brilliant set if you happen to be a fan of Jungle Cruise. That's the Disneyland attraction, not the film starring The Rock and Emily Blunt, although presumably there are fans of that film out there as well, they just didn't turn up at the box office. I mean, they can hardly be blamed for not showing up in the cinema given the fact that this thing released in 2021, a COVID year, and considering that this thing released simultaneously in theatres and on Disney+, but still, it's a film that maybe hasn't necessarily found its audience just yet. You never know how future generations will reinterpret this. Either way, the River Steamboat is another of those really big, chunky, meaty sets, which is going to be an either-or scenario for April 1st. Either this one, or the Shire, or the Beauty and the Beast castle, or all three if you're Ed Sheeran. Some of you watching this video might be. Maybe one person. That being the case, the last two LEGO sets on this list are significantly cheaper. Whether or not they're a good deal is up to interpretation, but certainly they're not going to cost you quite as much as River Steamboat or as Beauty and the Beast castle or the Shire. The Hulk truck versus Thanos answers the question that scholars have pondered since the dawn of time. What would happen if you gave the Hulk a monster truck? The answer apparently, it would be big, it would be green, it would be covered in stickers. Nice stickers, don't get me wrong, but stickers nonetheless. Normally prices for LEGO sets tend to sit at around the same for euros or dollars. This one costs 30 euros or $35, and that means that it is slightly more expensive in the United States of America. It's not enough to break the bank, but it is just something to bear in mind. You're getting a little bit less value for money if you happen to be American. We shall have to wait and see whether or not this becomes a trend going forward, because I don't know if you've heard, but America is shaking things up a little bit at the moment with the introduction of a bunch of tariffs coming very soon, which is essentially the guy in charge of America decided that it would be really neat if Americans had to pay more tax on things that weren't American. And unfortunately for Americans, most things on planet Earth are not made in the United States of America. Now, the LEGO Group is working to mitigate that in some ways. For example, even before the announcement of these tariffs, they were already working on a new factory that they were going to open in Virginia. The plan, I think, is probably going to be to rely more heavily on that factory than they had initially intended. But either way, things are going to get very dicey for pricing for LEGO alongside basically all other commodities for Americans in the near future. There will also be knock-on effects for the rest of the world, so if you happen to live in the UK or in the EU, don't necessarily think that you're off the hook there. Everything is going to be a little bit more turbulent in terms of the cost of living for a lot of people going forward. But anyway, for the moment, this is just a $5/euro/pound difference, depending on where you happen to live. It's just worth bearing in mind that this Hulk truck is for some reason a little bit more expensive in the land of the free. 76315 Iron Man's Laboratory Hall of Armour, on the other hand, is a little bit more evenly priced across the board. It costs £49.99 in the UK, $54.99 in the US, and €54.99 in the EU. That is the more standard pricing for a lot of LEGO sets, where euros and dollars are about equal. This set recreates a moment that we've seen in LEGO form before. I feel like it maybe is not quite as detailed as a previous version of the set that we have had, but I do really like some of the minifigures that are here in the box. In particular, that Iron Patriot is really nice. I really like the printing on there. It's also fun to have a different version of Guy Pearce's Aldrich Killian, one that this time around doesn't have a glow-in-the-dark head. When we had this one previously, they tried to use like a glow-in-the-dark material for the head element. It didn't quite work. Like, it was all right. It did glow, but it didn't look like the character in the film particularly, because the character in the film doesn't glow with that kind of eerie greenish colour that you get from glow-in-the-dark plastic. This time around then we've got this nice printing here. I quite like his tattoos. The fact that just his pecs are glowing is a little bit odd, but I get that this is probably a fairly difficult character to adapt into LEGO form. I kind of feel like I would have liked them to have gone either all in with the glowy lava look or just leave that out entirely. The fact that they've kind of half done it does just feel a little bit weird. Where the set is maybe let down a little bit is in the variety of different Iron Man suits that are available, not including the Iron Patriot, because this time around we've only got the three. We've got the Mark 43, we've got a Mark 6, and then we've got a Mark 3 mech, which is brick built, which is maybe not very detailed compared to some. There's not a huge amount of detail in here in terms of the brick-built elements. It's fairly sparse. What I do like is that printing on these window panels in order to give us some cool Iron Man-looking stuff. That I think is really neat. Otherwise, it feels like the bricks in this LEGO set are a little bit thin on the ground. Priced as it is, I do feel like regardless of where you live, this one is a little bit higher priced than I would like for the amount of plastic that's actually in the box. We've talked at great length in the past about how a lot of Marvel sets tend to be priced this way recently. It is just what it is. Maybe this is one that's going to go on discount eventually because it's probably going to go out to a far larger number of retailers than some of the direct-to-consumer sets, which are on the higher end of the cost scale on this list. That then are all of the LEGO sets that are currently scheduled for release on the 1st of April 2025, plus that one wild card which is probably going to be in store shelves at least by the 5th, depending on what the LEGO group ends up doing with that. Now, this is not to say that there is not going to be any other surprise release. It is not beyond the realms of the possible that the LEGO group drops a last-minute curveball on us, so there will potentially be other things that might be available, who knows, but at this moment in time when this video is made, these are the ones that we absolutely definitely know about, and these are the details that we absolutely definitely know about them. Which of these LEGO sets are you planning to pick up yourself? Let us know in the comments down below, and while you are there, do all of the YouTube things. You know them by now. Hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell. Do make sure that if you're going to be purchasing any of these LEGO sets from the LEGO website, that you use the affiliate link, which is down in the description, or the QR code that is currently on screen. They take you straight to the LEGO website. You can make that purchase. Doesn't cost you a penny extra, but we get a little bit of a kickback from that sale. It helps to keep the lights on at Brick Fanatics, helps to keep us making content. Speaking of which, do make sure that you go to brickfanatics.com for coverage of all things LEGO, including an awful lot more about all of the upcoming LEGO sets, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything LEGO related ever again. Thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.